Let's welcome the 13.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. We are Team Too Good. This is Carter, Ivy, Riley, Lawrence, and I'm Roger. Today we're presenting a survey about internet addiction. With the rapid development of technology, it seems that we are really benefit from the technology, and the way we think, the way we behave, and the world we live have changed vastly. However, it seems that people only praise the benefits, but over the negative effects that it brings, like internet addiction. So we hope that through this presentation, we can warn people by giving evidence of how people have addicted to the internet, hoping that while we enjoy the benefits that technology brings, we can still know the consequences if we overuse it. First, we're gonna start with interviewee's background. Notice that the backgrounds does not include personal information like zodiac sign, because we consider them not quite related to the survey. We only include gender, nationality, and department. The next one goes to the result and analysis. And the third one, the conclusion we have. The fourth one is just about the self-reflection on the whole process and some comments. Interviewee's background. Gender. We invite 20 persons to help finishing the survey. As you can see, the ratio of male to female is about half and half. So this survey is not biased toward any gender, and it's not influenced by that. Nationality. We got 12 nationalities in our survey. So though we have about five persons of Taiwanese, which is much higher than any other nationalities. But still, we want to ensure that the diversity of nationality is not eliminated, so that the survey is not biased by any other causes like nationality. Major. We have 12 departments, and so this survey, the same, indicates that this survey is not just a preference from a particular group, a particular department. It's a whole. It's like a whole summary, I guess. Yes. Result and analysis. To carry out the survey, we use 3 steps. First, we identify the electronic devices that is the main cause of internet addiction phenomenon, because we consider that it couldn't be that computer, iPhone. Like, we usually think that phone is the main cause of the internet addiction phenomenon. So it should be phone addiction phenomenon instead of internet. Yes, personally. And step 2, the impact of phone online addiction. So as I said, we think that internet addiction should become phone addiction. So step 2, we mainly focus on the impact of phone online addiction. Step 3, what do people think about it? We want to know their thoughts. We want to know their thoughts, their ideas, and how they think to avoid this situation. Yes. So next we're gonna start with electronic devices, and welcome Carter.
Hello, I'm Carter, and I will introduce the survey outcome of the use of electronic devices. So the first question is how many electronic devices do you have? And we can see in this pie chart, 40% of interviewees have 4 electronic devices, and 10% of them have 1 electronic devices. And the next is devices that people spend most of their time on. And in the bar chart, obviously that people spend most of their time on the phone. And it may relate to the multifunction of the phone. So the next question is about internet accessibility. And it's obvious that 95% of interviewees have internet accessibility on their phone. So we can predict that internet accessibility is common and quite important function for people, at least in this school. So, and in this pie chart, we ask people that how often do you check your phone during a day? And 75% of people check their phone about 10 times in a day, and they check their phone, and 5% of them check their phone 6 to 10 times, and only 20% of them check their phone 1 to 5 times. And then we are curious about interestingly, we are curious about the frequency of people turn on their phone unconsciously. And surprisingly, that each proportion of represented frequency is average without obvious gap. And the percentage fluctuates from 15% to 25%. And I think it may concern with people's habits. So in this question, we ask the people's experience about anybody ever warned you that you have spent too much time on the mobile phone. And half of them don't have that kind of experience, and 45% of them have that kind of experience. And what about the left 5%? He said maybe. And he just can't sure whether his friend is demanding him put down his phone or just simply mention it. So we conclude his answer to maybe. So after the above question, we can find 2 points. The first point is people can access internet and electronic devices effortlessly. And the second point is the use of electronic devices causes some problems, such as people waste too much time on checking their phone, or people turn on their phone unconsciously, even become a habit. And the last problem is almost half of them were warned spending too much time on the cell phone. And I think it's not a good phenomenon that we should interact people in a face-to-face rather than use our own smartphone. And I will introduce the next part.
talk about the impact using electronic devices has on our daily life. We set the questions from different aspects, including relationship building with your family and friends, and the problem of games addiction, and the influence on work and sleep. The first question is, which app you use the most? And we can see the number of using Instagram is much more than that of using other apps. And also we can see the top 3 is Instagram, Line, and Facebook, which are all social media. And we think it is because people can share their life and interact with others easily through these apps. And we know people use social media frequently, and we want to know how many hours do they spend on social media on average per day. And a quarter of our interviewees spend 2 to 3 hours per day, and some spend less than 2 hours, and even some spend more than 4 hours a day. And we can know they spend a certain time period using it. We want to know whether they will choose to stay online rather than go out with friends or family. And 25% will never do this, while 40% of them will choose to go out with friends and family, and only 5% of them always choose to stay online. And about the question, do you make new friends online? 55% of them choose yes, and while 45% say no. And we think that it may depend on different personal ideas, so there is not a big gap between these 2 answers. And we can see, according to the pie chart, people prefer having a conversation face-to-face rather than online. And there are some reasons. Because they think communicating and interacting with people in person are more important. And they can feel people's emotions and reactions when they are talk to each other face-to-face. And one of our interviewees that it depends on familiarity to that person, and one of our interviewees said it is fine, whether it's online or face-to-face. And about addicted to video games or online games, there is more than 1/2 of interviewees think they are addicted to these games. And about this question, we still analyze the situations of male and female interviewees, because some people may have a gender stereotype. They may think men like to play video games while women don't. But in reality, you can see the proportion of games addiction are both more than 50%, whether in male or female. So there is not an absolute relationship between gender and games addiction. Although there is a phenomenon of games addiction, 80% of our interviewees don't send online requests frequently to engage in a game or build friendship. And in terms of the work, there is only 5% often being distracted. But according to this diagram, to some extent, being online indeed distracts people from work. And next is a quite common problem about staying up late playing with your phones. There is only 20% of our interviewees never do this. And more interviewees think using a cell phone at night doesn't make it difficult for them to fall asleep. And some of our interviewees said checking their cell phone before going to bed is just their daily routine. So we think it probably related to personal habits. And Lawrence will introduce what people think about this issue.
The next topic we are going to talk about is what people think about internet addictions. The first question we asked them is, to what extent do you think that being without the internet is a serious issue for you? Rank it from 1 to 10. We can see that a lot of people chose 6 and 10 and none of them chose 1. As a result, we know that living without the internet has become and will become a more and more difficult issue for us. The next question is, do you want to limit your time spent online? A quarter of them chose no, and the rest of them chose yes. And do you think you are a cell phone addicted? Half of them chose no, and 35% of them chose yes. Only 15 chose maybe. So despite 75% of the people says that they don't want to limit their time online. Only half of them says that only less than half of them says that they are internet addicted. So what do interviewees think about modern people's phone addiction phenomenon? Some people said that phobbing are becoming more and more common. We can see people phobbing while walking, eating, and working. Others says that as long as it don't affect our daily life and health, it is okay for us to use our phone whenever we want, to do whatever we want. And still others believe that we should use our phone in a moderate amount of time. Because if we use too much, it might damage our health or injure our necks. And could it be avoided, and how? Those who said yes said we can avoid it by spending more time face to face, or gaining more self-control, or focus more on our surroundings and paying attention less on our phones. And those who says no is because phone has a lot of functions, so it's hard for us to keep our attention aside from it. And others says that when someone has a phone, everybody gains one because people like what others have. So it's hard for us to become different from others. And the next part is our conclusion. Welcome.
To sum up the result of our survey, we found out that firstly, phone is the main electronic devices that would cause online addiction. Secondly, according to our survey, although people do spend much time on social media, but they do not building relationships through internet is not that common. That means that internet has limited impact on how people build relationships. Thirdly, internet do has some negative impacts on half of our interviewers on different aspects, such as works, learning, and sleeping. In our opinion, in this modern world, it's hard for us to live without phone, and the convenience of internet and phone plays a really important role in our daily life. But its convenience could also lead us to phone addiction and maybe do harm to our health. So, but nevertheless, as long as we use it in a right way, we could enjoy the benefits it brings to us. For example, we may try to prevent ourselves from being obsessed with social media and online games by using time management apps. These kind of apps are developed for people who have weaker self-discipline, and it can help people to gain self-control. Overall, we cannot underestimate the seriousness of internet addiction. Lastly, we want to share what we learned in this besides the result of the survey. Before doing this group project, we seldom have chances to talk or communicate with foreign students. And sometimes we may concern that our English is good enough to talk with them. But by interviewing, we gradually overcome our fear and realize that the barrier we thought doesn't really exist. Most of the foreign students are kind and willing to exchange their ideas with us, as long as we have courage to take the first step. And this is our presentation. I hope you like it.
Hello. Do you guys have any questions about our survey? Yes.
Question.
Okay.
So when you analyze your questions, you do have occasionally and sometimes, but the difference is when they respond to sometime, but the sometime is actual circumstances, right? So if you don't have that, so the two categories is the same. You know what I'm talking about? So if they say I sometimes use my phone during certain circumstances, so that means sometimes. So do you understand that?
Yes. We actually don't thought about it before, so really thank you for pointing it out.
So that is a little bit confused.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or some mistakes you want to point out? No.
Any others?
Sleeping guy.
So can we start with maybe the first team? How about Team Moss? Any questions or comments? So anyone from Team Moss?
Thank you.
How about our second team? Joy?
Good.
Okay.
Team 3.
Good job.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And I got a color.
Yeah.
Black and white
Black
and
and
yellow. Yeah, your presentation is fluent. Yeah. Roger that.
I'm just curious. I think the previous team mentioned that when they interview local students, they say that local students, they tend to give very brief responses, and then you need to be encouraged to give more details. Did you encounter a similar situation when you were interviewing local students?
For me, not actually, because they just have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
For me, because I only interview 4 foreigners, so yeah, I don't encounter such problems.
in our conversation, they answer a lot of detail about the phone addiction.
Oh, that's good. So there's not much difference in terms of the response styles between
Yes.
Taiwanese and
Yes,
foreign
yes.
interviewees. Okay, good.
Any questions?
So in others, maybe one more question or comment?
Or compliments?
I think you are so confident. You five are so confident.
Oh, thank
So
you.
that's pretty good.
I like your chest code.
Good. I do agree with both. Okay. So then thank you very much.